Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go on, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Greg, I'm going to do the rare thing of asking you to take your headsets off. You're ready to go, but I'm a little worried about today, Amin, because Greg Cody is sick, and I don't think he looks good. I don't think he sounds good. He's coughing. It brought back an earlier time at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm feeling a bit haunted. Greg, to me right now, looks physically haunting in a way that reminded me at the... And he sounds it. He sounds bad. This is not good.
Like Vincent Price.
I'm giving you my all.
I appreciate it, and I don't mean to mock this, but I actually had the exchange with Greg when I walked in where his son is asking him, have you been in makeup? And he says yes, and I had open-mouthed shock because I'm like, did they embalm him? Like I don't know what happened here, but he looks pale and he's giving off haunted, and when he laughs, he coughs, and when he coughs, he laughs. So we're in for one today, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, my voice is not my own. The voice I hear in my ear sounds several octaves lower, and I don't know what to do about it.
Can we agree that sick voice is a very cool voice?
Why would the headphones being off help?
It is a sexy
voice. I wanted Lewis. I told him right before we started, I said, Lewis, make sure to get his hair. Do a close-up. I want a close-up on his hair because he doesn't look like he's been in hair and makeup, does he? Unless there are things happening in hair and makeup here like in Fox Sports.
Oh! Cheap shot.
Closer, please.
The sexy, sick voice, right? Like, we all wish we could have that voice all the time. Like, I'm feeling under the weather.
Put it on the poll. Do you love your sick voice? I don't believe that is actually a thing.
It's a thing.
All right, well, okay. We'll get to all of this in a second because it's a Greg Cody Thursday, and I am actually thrilled. You can put your headsets back on. Thank you, Greg. I am actually thrilled that he's in with us. I don't know how medicated he is, but he seems a little off, and that's always good when Greg Cody's a little off.
How can you tell?
I'm a little medicated.
Okay, excellent. We'll take this wherever it ends up. The thing that I have a tension with, though, that is problematic is, and Lucy, I'm sorry for this. When I started in sports radio, one of our initial influences, the people who created this radio show, was that in South Florida, there was a Neil Rogers on the sports station, and he was making fun of the sports station and what the sports station was doing. And at the time, it was because it's the only other time in South Florida sports history that we've had in front of us what we presently have. Back then, it was Dan Marino and Jimmy Johnson. So it became a bit that anytime you turned on your radio, all you heard was Jimmy and Danny and Danny and Jimmy and Jimmy and Danny. And now it's Jimmy and Riley and Jimmy and Riley and Jimmy and Jimmy and Riley. And it's because nothing like this has been in this town before. And the thing that I wanted to ask, because I've got a tension, I know Greg Cody has a ton of opinions. I know this show has a ton of opinions. There hasn't been anything like this in South Florida where the power of Pat Riley butts heads with Shaq, and Shaq loses, and Shaq's like, security is here, and Shaq, you leave. Like, we're not doing it your way, Shaq. Get out of here. If you don't want to try and practice, you can go. Wade at the end. The things that Gilbert Arenas is criticizing. Hey, Riley shouldn't be in charge there because Riley thinks he's in charge because Riley's always been in charge. But now, what's right in front of you, I'm sure Greg Cody has a million opinions on. I am sure that Jeremy right now is gathering a round table of millions of people to put on somewhere on this show, Jimmy and Riley and Jimmy and Riley and Jimmy. The thing I wanted to ask the group before we get to Greg Cody's Thursday takes that he wanted to give Tuesday, that he wanted to give 5 days ago, but he's been too sick to do it. We've got a South Beach session today coming out with Pat Riley. But it was done 6 weeks ago.
Huh.
Good timing. The least timely South Beach sessions in history.
Or perhaps the most timely.
Yeah. Except you don't, unless you are particularly prescient with your questions, you don't ask Pat Riley about the one thing that people would want him to talk about. But I bet it's a great SBS.
But
don't get me wrong.
Pat Riley usually takes any opportunity in front of a microphone to say something that you can take out of context.
That's true. That is true.
So, do you think, and let me get out in front of this and say shame on you if you try to take any of this interview out of context, especially to get extra eyes on this great episode that we are presently promoting on the lower third with a graphic on DKN saying Pat Riley joining us on South Beach Sessions. So
I'm worried about all of this. I've been talking. There's a new producer to South Beach Sessions for a while now. He's done a great job with it. Matthew Kugler. He doesn't want anybody to see him. He's got a big forehead.
It's true.
And he could be in a barbershop quartet. But he's one of the rare producers around here, and we do not make many of them in many years, who don't want to be on camera, don't want to be at a microphone. Like, we don't make that kind of producer. I don't even recognize that kind of producer.
I don't know they existed.
I don't know what that is. And so, but all he wants to do is like, no, let's make South Beach Sessions more intimate. And here, this is the part I actually want to put in front of the group in a serious way, in a humanizing way, because I'm a bit embarrassed by my flopping around this week on. I really like and admire these people. And I would say in the history of my career here in South Florida, there have only been 3 people who have really shown me what it looks like at the inside of sports excellence. Like, really shown me as a curious sports reporter, oh, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. It's Ricky Williams. It's Pat Riley. And it's Jimmy Johnson.
So not David Sampson.
Not David Sampson. No, not David Sampson. David Sampson is someone who could build a stadium in South Florida where no one can do business and not have a cost overrun and not have a delay in South Florida with all our development problems, because he is a business beast. But no is the answer to your question. Consistent sports excellence is not something I got from him. I got it from Jimmy Johnson, I got it from Ricky Williams, and I got it from Pat Riley, showing me the innards of things. And so I trust those people because I know you got to understand this part. This part is, that world is more competitive than anyone listening to this can possibly understand about how hard it is to compete with other people over money. And you've got to be more willful than competitionaholics about how you get it more money. And so when it comes to criticizing Pat Riley, even though the standings do it for us, like, I just don't want to pile on with criticism that to me just seems obvious.
And are you saying within this interview there is the opportunity to pile on by taking something out of context to help further our own agenda?
I wanted to do this interview as something that might be the last interview I do with Pat Riley. That's what I'm trying to do with South Beach Sessions.
See, you're doing it for the internet. We have just killed Pat Riley.
Yeah, $50 fine.
You know, you mentioned Matthew Kugler, and I agree. It is a rarity in this industry when you have a producer that doesn't want to be on camera at all, because every producer just ends up being so hungry, and if you give them a little, they try to take the entire mile. And Matthew Kugler is just cut differently. He is someone that all producers should look at and admire.
I had a weird interaction with him yesterday that I will tell you about in a second. But is Taylor trying to get on because we've got Bill Belichick news? There are some suspicions around Bill Belichick, and I don't know if you guys are interested in this. Are you watching what's happening with Belichick, where he is now already having to insist, I'm not going to be the Raiders coach. I'm going to be at North Carolina. He's been there 5 minutes, and he's got to insist immediately, hey, they're not immediately. How inefficient is this by the NFL? You could have had Belichick at any time, and all of a sudden now he's available, and so you're willing to take a $10 million buyout a month later.
Where did you get headphones?
Belichick's not leaving.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Exclusive.
Thank you. Well, he's been on top of this more than anybody in the country. There's been no reporter somehow better than the guy under Mike Ryan's desk. I don't know how that's happened. He's been ahead of everybody on this. What do I do with the South Beach session, though? I was telling Kugler, I don't think it should run this week. I don't think that I think the timing should make it wait for.
This is the timing you want, because again, Dan, I know personally it might put you in a bit of a bind if someone takes something out of context from this interview and it becomes a whole thing, but it really helps us. And also, Pat's probably going to do that on his own anyway and spin it into, I meant to do that.
You should clickbait this thing up. Yeah. You should be like, Riley speaks. That's how you put it out.
No, I think, Dan, the only way for you to accomplish what it is that you want out of this is put the interview out there, do what you're doing now of letting people know what the context is. We don't put out any of the clips that could be virally decontextualized, as Amin would say, but we let everybody else do that, and then by getting ahead of it today, you can yell at everyone tomorrow for doing the thing you know they're going to do today.
That benefits us.
Sure does.
Why are you talking in that sing-song way?
That's how I talk.
Oh, I thought you meant Mike.
It felt a bit. I guess I just.
Some of the great talents.
It's just not liking me. I get it.
No,
Your voice sounds like music is what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congrats.
You do something with your eyebrows?
you guys keep saying that I don't like Jeremy, and I understand that I have been a little extra mean to Jeremy. The only reason I have been extra mean to Jeremy is because he's trying to climb through the gauntlet that only Chris Whittingham has ever been allowed to climb through, which is, I am expert broadcasting prodigy. Let me show you how prodigious I am at broadcasting. There's only been one of those around here in our history for all the producers who love to talk at the microphones around here.
I really wanted you to say, you guys keep saying I don't like Jeremy, and the only reason why you think I'm mean to Jeremy is because I don't like Jeremy. I wanted you to end with that one. Like, yes.
I wish I had done that.
You guys keep saying this, and you're right. I despise him. I loathe him.
It's not. No, that's not. It's not in. Well, it's in some ways true, but it's not. In most ways, it is not true. I still don't know what to do though. With Greg Cody's got opinions here, and I want to tell you what the size of something is in basketball when it gets the soap opera dramatics involved. When the wide receiver Tyreek Hill has problems with the Dolphins, was recently rated the #1 player in the NFL, was by consensus like the most exciting live wire any of us have seen on a field, dwarfed by what we're presently talking about, which is, oh, McDaniel doesn't have the heft Riley does. The Dolphins don't have the heft the Heat do to make the disgruntle off, as Greg Cody is calling it, something that makes Tyreek Hill dwarfed by the other controversy.
Right. Yeah, and also the whole hierarchy of the Dolphins, they don't have a Pat Riley. You know, Stephen Ross is not Pat Riley. Certainly Chris Greer isn't. And so whatever Tyreek Hill wants, he's going to end up getting. If he wants to be traded, they're not going to get much for him. Everybody's thinking, oh, they'll get a first-round draft pick. No, they won't. They'll be lucky to get a third-round draft pick.
They won't.
For a 30-year-old.
I love that character. I've loved that character of your dad since he was. Your dad was a young man once, and that sarcastic character that talks out of the side of his mouth with "No, they won't." I've been watching his work for 50 years.
Yeah, it's
50
true, though.
years I've seen that guy.
It's true though. The market and frankly, the market value for Jimmy Butler isn't great either. Amin could speak better to that than I would, but he's 35. Tyreek Hill is 30, coming off a bad season. Isn't as fast as, by my eye, isn't as fast as he was 2 years ago. And so what's the market value for these guys? I know I'm off on a tangent here, but to have these two guys in a disgruntled off at this stage in their career is a little bit weird. And Tyreek is like, well, I'm used to making the playoffs. Well, they didn't make the playoffs because their starting quarterback missed 6 games. So, factor that in. And you didn't have a great season either. And as far as Jimmy Butler, what Riley gave Jimmy Butler was good enough to make 2 finals in an Eastern Conference Finals in 5 years. So he didn't give him nothing. But Riley did what Riley did, which is he missed another whale. He keeps going whale hunting and missing whales. The latest, I guess, was Leonard. And so Pat Riley deserves the criticism you gave him the other day, and I wish you hadn't walked it back with that clarification, because it's not all Butler. It's not all Butler here.
This is the thing that I would say to all of you, and please, gruntled's not a word, right? Because disgruntled is a great word, but it's not a word to be gruntled.
It's funny, it has become a word.
Gruntled?
Yeah, it's a word now, but it's an after-the-fact word that was invented and actually acknowledged to fit disgruntled.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So gruntled became a word because of the popularity of disgruntled?
Yeah.
Because people were saying disgruntled, and then we're asking, where's the gruntled?
Yeah, if you're in a good mood, you're
gruntled.
You're gruntled.
Yeah,
you're feeling gruntled.
It is in the dictionary.
What is
in
it?
good humor, happy, contented. Once he was gruntled.
But wait a minute,
wife
you're
and
saying the
kid.
word comes from disgruntled?
Yes, I believe that originally gruntled was not a root word for disgruntled, but after the fact, it became so. Because if you have a dis, you got to have something that's the opposite of dis.
Yes.
You know.
It's just like disappointed. When I'm not disappointed, I'm appointed.
That's correct. I don't
Yeah.
think appointed became a word, though, after disappointed, the way that Greg is alleging that gruntled came after disgruntled.
When I have discretion, Dan is always like, me, you don't have any discretion on the show. So what he wants me to have is discretion.
Craig was right. Disgruntled indeed came first, as according to ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
Well, I
It
mean,
must be
money.
so then.
If our overlord says so.
Merriam-Webster.com says the same thing. 1830 for disgruntled, 1904 for gruntled. First
Yeah.
known
Yes.
uses.
That
And
makes
indeed,
sense.
and indeed, a back formation for disgruntled.
Yeah, after the fact.
Dan, I don't want you to be dismayed. I want you to be made.
Okay, you keep doing that the entirety of the show if you like. I'd be happy if that were your only contribution today. I'm dying to talk to Lucy about her frolicking at Texas with Ricky Williams. Yes, because I haven't seen the footage. I'd like to see the footage of you. We did some things that got us in trouble with some people. I was dealing with things during the break because of what we did at Texas. And so I wanted to talk to you about your college football wanderings. We appear to have a pretty big game tonight where you might want to keep an eye just generally on we're very close to having to walk back some James Franklin stuff because there aren't very many good teams left.
I've never said anything about him.
Or it gets worse, which is kind of what we're.
Well, but he's
rooting
already
for.
fixed some things, hasn't he? Like James, whatever the reputation of James Franklin is, it's been improved here, even if he loses tonight with a boneheaded decision at the end, just because he's won a couple of games that people are going to remember.
He still does that weird little run. So, until he stops doing that, I can't trust him.
Guys, all these things are distractions. James Franklin is only going to keep the tractions. He's going to get rid of the distractions.
And he was right, by the way. Franklin was right. Teams should be in conferences. You shouldn't be allowed to say, "Oh, we're in Notre Dame. We're so big. We're bigger than college football itself. We can be independent if we want to be." It shouldn't, But the problem is the NCAA no longer has any strength. Nobody's running college football, and so they get to do whatever they want because they're Notre Dame.
Yeah, but that's all the way that it's always been, and they negotiated that great deal for themselves, and now you want to take away their freedom. Why? Because James Franklin says so?
No, because that's the uniformity of college football is everybody's in a conference.
No, but it doesn't have to be like that. They've got their freedom. They're more valuable than everyone else. They act like it because they are.
Okay, let's everybody be independent then. Let's do
Okay,
away
that's
with
fine.
conferences.
Negotiate that for yourselves the
Yeah.
way Notre Dame did.
Okay.
We should. Seriously.
Might go that way.
Why
Might actually go to full-fledged independence. There was an opportunity here if the ACC had foresight or strong leadership. They're absent of both. But in 2020, when Notre Dame was out of options in the COVID year, they joined the ACC for just 1 year. And the ACC allowed for a situation in which Notre Dame got all the benefit of that, got to host an entire football season. Otherwise, they wouldn't have, and they got nothing in return, including $0 from a team that is basically an ACC team making it to the CFP.
Wait a second. Are you saying that they're going to dismantle the conferences and just have mantled independence?
It's crazy. Crazy. I would say, so like something that Chip Kelly said, I believe a few years ago, was that he kind of thinks college football is heading in the direction of where Notre Dame is. Because although Notre Dame is independent in football, they have conference allegiance in other sports. They're in the ACC for basketball and a couple other sports. I believe they're in the Big Ten for hockey. So like it does sort of seem like a natural move to take football out of the conference equation. But if you look specifically at the playoff, once you advance to the next round, you bring X amount of money for your conference back to the Big Ten, back to the ACC. Yes, well, not the ACC. They're not bringing anything back. But the SEC is bringing stuff back. Notre Dame gets that all for themselves, where Texas makes it to the playoff. They're in the last four standing, and they're sharing that money with Arkansas and Mississippi State. Notre Dame gets that whole thing for themselves, and it's just not fair.
Yeah, you guys are funny this way because I will tell you, I have no good feelings for Notre Dame, not a one.
Really?
But you guys out here trying to take away their freedom because they're better at the business of college football than everybody else, and they've turned themselves into a brand that doesn't even have to be good in order to be more valuable than everyone else. Like, it's unbelievable that, Greg, that's the place where now, we got to be careful with all this freedom everyone has. Uniformity is the way to go because James Franklin says that it's not fair that Notre Dame gets to be more Notre Dame than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. I'm loving this discussion. Less cushion, more discussion.
I'm not trying to. I know that Greg's trying to take away their independence. I'm not. I'm just taking the opportunity to slam the ACC for bad leadership.
This is the fight in America right now. Somebody wants to be about religion. Somebody wants to take away their independence. It's not just college football. It's all of America right now. Like, what are you doing, Greg? I understand. If you want to hate Notre Dame, hate Notre Dame. Man, look. The thing that I want most on college football for whatever the championship game is, you're going to give me another Alabama that I can root against? Mm-hmm. You're going to give me the option that I can root for somebody and root for against somebody? Put Notre Dame in that game. That brand remains more valuable than on all the other brands. Remains that way. SEC, everything, amazingly, at least in part because it's not beholden to any of these conferences. They don't have to split things 6 ways.
Is it hard for you to hate Notre Dame knowing how hot Marcus Freeman is? Because when Brian Kelly was there, it was so easy. But now that they've got a hottie, it kind of changes things a little bit. It's been tough because I'm like, you're so hot, I want to like you, but Notre Dame.
Very hot. He's also dyeing his hair now.
Oh, he definitely is.
Yeah, he's dyeing his hair now.
Yeah, the Beijing was bad. I mean, didn't he have a terrible Beijing? Like, I think we can find
phones
that.
on the TV can tend to make things look worse, but yes, he's dyeing his hair.
There is a difference between Beijing and dyeing your hair.
Right.
To me, dyeing your hair is you've got gray hair and you're turning black. Beijing is like, I don't have hair, and I'm trying to give the illusion of hair.
No, he's got a lid on him, and the hairline isn't bad. He's just dyeing it to keep it looking young.
I've got to be honest. I didn't know what any of that was. I didn't even know the name Beijing as a hair treatment thing until Carlos Boozer ran onto the court, and it was just clear that he had chapapote. It was just asphalt. It was just right. It was just on his head. It looked like it had been painted in a way that
crudely.
Not just crudely, in a way that made me say to myself, whoever Carlos Boozer's barber is, that person is gonna have eternal shame about what he just did to Carlos Boozer.
He didn't have a barber. He had a painter. Someone with painter's tape right here, and then the paint roller in the paint, and then roll it up.
If you're Carlos Boozer in that spot, you have to play that entire basketball game with a baseball cap on.
Whoever did that certainly touched up Jeremy's eyebrows today. Something is going on.
Well, not just Jeremy's. We got an eyebrow problem in the shipping container. Roy, I still look at Roy and I still see that there's half an eyebrow missing because he had a haircut and he clipped an eyebrow. That doesn't happen to folks who just do Beijing.
It doesn't happen to folks that aren't trying to do something to their eyebrows already. I'm like, what is the story behind this? Was he trying to do something on his head and it slipped and whoops?
I'm worried about all of this, right? Because he just said recently that he's taken up skating. That also involves blades. I don't like the idea of Roy around things that are sharp and now.
You're cool with it?
You cut your eyebrow while.
I'm less cool with it, honestly. You're so bumbling.
Roy, when you're cutting your hair, I've never heard of anybody accidentally cutting their eyebrow while cutting their hair. I've never heard of such a thing.
When you are going towards your forehead on the side of your head, it slipped.
I don't know, man.
No.
This story just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see like whoops. Like,
well, you're not cutting
casually
your own
this,
hair,
like-
Mike.
The old slip.
But when I try to manicure my own eyebrows, I might make a mistake. So I think that perhaps the intention here wasn't the side of the head. The intended target was indeed the eyebrow, and someone just overplayed it.
No, I believe Roy, because at first I was kind of wondering, like, how do you do it? But now that you mentioned it's back to front, he's going back to front, and then it slips.
But you just get distracted and keep going. Like, hey, what was I thinking about?
Well, it's because it's that turn. If you don't take that turn well, you slip and it goes forward. And what ends up happening is you destroy your eyebrow. And what Roy wanted to do was he wanted to destroy his eyebrow. He didn't want to destroy it.
Ah, that's true. Destroy.
Are you guys going to stop? The three of you have done this now, where he does it. It's obvious that it's all he's doing, and all of you go or
good beat. It's
crazy.
It's fun.
The three of you have reacted to him. He's surprising you each time when it's clear that everything he's saying is meant to just get to that joke, and somehow Lucy, Mike, and Greg have stopped for a moment to respect the joke and then move on, but I don't understand why it is that you can't just keep talking.
Because it's worth acknowledging. It's a bit that he's created.
No, but it's funnier if no one acknowledges it. It's funnier if he just keeps.
Okay. That's one way to look at it.
What he shouldn't keep stopping the show because clever.
That's one way to look at it.
Clever. You're still doing that thing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful bit that he created. I want to give him acknowledgement for it.
Okay.
It's a beautiful bit. By the way, a quick aside. Nobody needs eyebrows. Okay, I brought this up once.
What?
I brought this up once before on the show. I said I challenged the entire show to shave off their eyebrows.
Then you do it right now.
Well, who's with me?
I'm not.
Absolutely, I am.
Shave your eyebrows right now.
I would
if you don't
do it
think
if
you need
everyone
them.
else did. Except
Well, no.
How about if just
but
Roy
if
does it with you?
If you think everyone should do it, then you should have no problem being like, I'll just do it on my own. I'll start the trend.
Okay,
Lead us.
The brows would grow back.
Then do it. Shave your eyebrows.
I would if I didn't have to go to the Orange
no
Bowl
one's
tonight.
disputing that it would grow back.
I don't want to sit in the press box and be made fun of because I don't have any eyebrows.
No one's disputing that it wouldn't grow back. You're claiming that it would look fine.
People wouldn't even notice. I could walk around with no eyebrows.
They would notice.
They wouldn't even notice.
Have you seen Voldemort? He doesn't have eyebrows.
Well, no, no one should.
No one's disputing that you wouldn't have eyebrows.
should.
But some people are puting.
No one should.
It's the most useless body part. Come on.
Someone should be puting it. That's all I'm saying.
I have a solution here. Okay, I follow a lot of like special effects makeup artists on TikTok, and I think that I, with a glue stick and some concealer, could make it look like you don't have eyebrows.
All right, let's do it right now.
Can someone get me
All
a
right,
glue stick
let's
and
go
concealer?
ahead. All right,
that matches his skin tone.
We're going to plan on doing this. I also want to see if we have any takers. Maybe Kugler out there is a taker. If anyone, Greg's just looking. If one person is willing to do it, Greg says he's willing to do it. I don't know if we have any tailors, any people who are so eager to be on camera that anyone out there is willing to shave their eyebrows. At Fuentes, is there a Fuentes in the house willing to shave eyebrows?
You offered camera time to Mike Fuentes.
Fuentes just gave me the eyes. I think he's in.
Okay, I'm just telling everybody in the other room, if I have one taker on shaved eyebrows,
Wait a minute
Greg,
now. I already explained. I work among people tonight. I got to go to an Orange Bowl game. Okay,
you can't make the argument. No one cares. No one needs them. No one should have them.
True.
I can't go out tonight looking like that.
Well, because I'm an iconoclast. No one agrees with me. I'm alone on a mountaintop. If de rigueur was no eyebrows, I'd be right at the front of the line.
Greg, normally I would have sympathy for you, but you're the one who opened this door. You're the one who brought it to us, and now you're trying to dissuade us. Stop trying to dissuade us. Just sway us.
Dan did it.
We got ya. It would have been a lot funnier if you had him.
Sure.
No, wait a minute. I'm laughing at how bad it was.
That one was so obvious.
It's his cadence.
It's the chair. It's very heavy-handed.
It's the sing-song and the lack of subtlety from the chair. And I'm still reeling from Greg Cody said no one needs eyebrows.
Right.
And I've never seen Lucy that indignant. Lucy in the corner of that room where Billy usually hides in support of Greg Cody, we got an entirely opposite viewpoint on opposite day from Lucy looking at you and saying you're out of your head saying we don't need our eyebrows.
Okay, and I challenge Lucy to explain why she needs eyebrows.
Because they make me look good and they frame my face. Have you
frame your
seen what
face.
happens when someone like goes Pamela Anderson on their eyebrows? They look like a completely different person. There's a reason in every sitcom ever, there's always one weird episode where someone burns their eyebrows off and they look so ridiculous. You need them to look nice.
That's the standard thought process, I guess.
You just keep being like, okay, I don't need eyebrows. And then we're giving you the opportunity to say you don't need them, to shave them off, and you won't take it.
I don't know if Amin knows. I think he must know. As our basketball expert, I think Amin must know what I'm about to say here, okay? But I have watched the entirety that we've been talking about this, and Mike is like a pit bull being held by the neck because he knows that we have a photograph of former Knicks coach Mike Woodson, who had an eyebrow accident of some sort, and we can now put that on the screen for you because Amin is saying, no, that's not an accident. He shaved his eyebrows on purpose because he erred in thinking exactly what Greg Cody thinks.
No,
Good-looking man.
He made a bet with his team. Hey, if we do this, if we like hold the whatever to under 100 points, I'll shave my eyebrows off. And so the Hawks, who at the time weren't that good, did this miraculous thing on court, and so a man of his word. I believe that's when he also shaved his head, because remember, Mike Woodson used to have a head of hair, kind of like Stephen A. Smith's, receding hairline, but like thick hair where it was, and he shaved everything off, including his eyebrows. That's a lost bet right there.
Greg, I think you're underestimating how much of your facial expressions come from your eyebrows, because you lose your eyebrows and then you permanently look like shocked the whole time because your eyebrows make up such a part of, like, look, your eyebrows, you're like burning your eyebrows right now. Like, it's making a face.
Okay, but the eyebrows are not what furrow.
Then shave
You're
it.
just yapping, and you're not doing anything.
Okay.
You're just yap, and you won't shave your eyebrows off. Be a man.
I'm going to start a browless movement. I'm going to...
Right
Without
now.
doing it?
I'm going to be the king of the browless movement. Okay? I'm not prepared to start right now because I got to work tonight.
So tomorrow.
It could be.
See, that
It could be.
it sounds like you're dissenting when you should be scenting.
I am going to tell you, okay, that I just saw Amin, okay? Amin ended the last thing he said with lost bet. He made a serious point. And then the show moved in a different direction, and he made a face and got really angry with himself because he didn't have another shitty joke lined up. He thought he was going to go the entire segment making the shitty joke to end every point, and he got mad at himself for not having one there.
Yeah, well, you know what? Walt Disney didn't create his empire in a day, Dan. He was knee first before he was Disney. No, don't push that button. Don't you dare.
Major penalty, 5 minutes, swooning comedy.
You're always so damn strict. Why don't you be district for a little bit?
You know
The
what?
fanfare he was met with when that door opened.
I'm going to...
I want none of those people to have eyebrows during the
Yes.
break. None of
All those
Let's do
disembodied.
it.
That was good.
What about the embodied ones?
You can join them. But don't shave off those beautiful eyebrows of yours today. I don't know what it is you're doing, pal, but I'm on you.
Lucy, please. I am somebody who is an expert at creating conflict between chemicals in our environment. I learned it from Pat Riley. It's how it is that you make people sharper, especially Jeremy Teshay's, who I've never liked. You clearly have an objection in general to Greg Cody coming out here and being like, doesn't matter, I'll do it, I got to work tonight, I'm not going to do anything, it's just bluster and nonsense. It's not, your words are not in any way meaningful, they don't mean anything.
you can't just say that, like, oh, everyone looks better with eyebrows. I'm going to start the no eyebrow movement, and then say, well, I'm going somewhere and I don't want to be embarrassed by how I'll look, so I'm not going to shave my eyebrows, completely proving my point that you think you need eyebrows.
No, because society tells me that I do. Like,
Well, then don't listen and shave your eyebrows.
Okay, first
Maybe shave one.
No, that'd be ridiculous. I mean, to shave one eyebrow would be ridiculous. I would feel off balance. I'm big into symmetry.
That's ridiculous.
I have to have symmetry in my life. I may shave my eyebrows on the Greg Cody Show podcast, and
for your own gain.
Put it on our YouTube channel.
Okay, there it is. There it is.
I'm thinking about
finally.
that.
Okay, there it is. Now
Okay.
we've gotten somewhere.
First, I got to research how long does it take for brows to grow back.
I'm on it.
I think it's a bad idea in general.
You'd look good without eyebrows, by the way.
I would not.
Yeah, you would.
No, my face needs them. They're like accents over my.
They're a
It
crutch.
looks like an Enya.
They're a crutch.
I'm seeing 3 to 4 months to grow
What?
back eyebrows fully.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you without eyebrows. Eyebrows are probably your signature feature. You don't think so?
No, hell
I think
no.
he's either known for a beard or eyebrows. He's got unique eyebrows.
Nobody's been known for their eyebrows since Einstein.
Eugene Levy.
That's
For
not
sure.
a bad suggestion.
It's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it's
actually.
a great suggestion.
Wow, Mike's been waiting all his life to be able to just flip over that Eugene Levy card at exactly that moment. And everyone put down their sword.
I could have gone Groucho Marx, but I feel like Eugene Levy was inspired.
But everyone, do you know how rare it is to get generations of Codys to just back off? You got us with the eyebrows.
I also like that was my contemporary reference, Eugene Levy.
Yeah, and then you went to Marx.
I could have gone Julia Fox. The absence of eyebrows is also an eyebrow.
Anthony Davis.
Well, that's just one eyebrow. He's famous for having one eyebrow.
Unibrow.
I mean, don't play a semantics game. That was a good answer. Good answer.
Cara Delevingne, but you guys probably don't know who she is.
No, I know who she is. She's got
I know
beautiful.
you know
yeah,
who she is, but I don't think you guys know who she is.
Okay, that's
she
not
is?
necessary.
Do you know who she is?
Unneeded.
No, hell no.
Well,
An-
then do you
answer
know
the
who
question.
she is?
Unneeded.
Answer
I'm
the
not going to
question.
take a quiz.
Well said.
That was very aggressive, Lucy. Okay, we were talking about his eyebrows. I don't need a pop culture course
Zachary
from you.
Quinto.
Where are you and Greg on this feud? Because we're not going to get any payoff. We're just going to sit here and fart around and talk about it and then not actually get a payoff.
Fart around.
Scorsese.
Disgusting.
Really?
Should be more gusting.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
I did want to talk some football because this week has not had very much football in it, and we are now ramping up to some of the fun stuff in both crescendos, the minor leagues of football and the major leagues of football, after a season of everyone macheteing each other so that you get just an assortment of more games than you've ever had and more injuries. One of the statistics I saw the other day was that now that Bowers is the best tight end receiver or receiver of any kind for receptions as a rookie, he is in a class with Puka Nacua and Jalen Waddle and just an assortment of and neighbors of just rookies in the modern age where, oh, there is an unguardable thing. If I put system with quarterback and make timing, it doesn't matter if you even have Patrick Surtain. That thing is going to get 100 catches because systems and athletes have combined so that the power forward is so that when I'm watching Arizona and McBride, I'm like, that can't be guarded by anybody. Like, if he runs out there and turns around, he's much bigger than Jason Witten, and Jason Witten can get out there in a suit right now and get you 6 yards on a catch.
Yeah, and it's not often that you can identify that in college. You could with Brock Bowers. You knew, like, the last couple of years that he was playing, this guy's ready for the NFL right now, and he'd be pretty damn good. Same thing with the true freshman in Ohio State and Jeremiah Smith. You plug that guy into the NFL right now, he's a team's number one.
Well, the thing I wanted to ask you guys, okay, because I find this part fascinating, and Lucy, I want to ask for your expertise here as somebody who's been watching everybody in college football on the field and on television, okay? It is so rare for me. One of the reasons I'm arriving at the viewpoint that Cam Ward is a professional quarterback better than I thought he was and better than anyone thought he was, because he wasn't going to be one of the first two taken until we just all saw that season. It is so rare for me to say while watching a college quarterback, ooh, he drops back and and that's as well as a ball can be thrown. Where does he get the audacity of knowing it happens 5 or 6 times a game with him? And I don't see it with other quarterbacks. And I think quarterback analysis really stinks. Like, it stinks because of all the things that go into either derailing Baker Mayfield or Bryce Young before you even get a chance to understand how the finances wrecked everything there, or the offensive line did, because C.J. Stroud hasn't regressed. No one can play quarterback if the pressure's coming from center and guard except Tom Brady. History of the sport. No one can do it, and even Tom Brady can't do it that well because there's so many things that go into that position. Lucy, tell me how many times you're watching a college football game this season and you're watching the quarterback, because I didn't even do this for Shedeur. I did not do this for Shedeur Sanders. Where does he get the audacity to make that throw 6 and 7 times as if he's unbothered?
I saw someone describe it as like Cam Ward is probably 5% too confident in Cam Ward, and if you just knock down 5% to be perfect. But, like, he played very different than anyone else this season, where you're out on watching Miami football and you're knowing that, like, he will win whatever game he steps out and plays for them. And I will say this year is a little different because it's not a particularly, like, kind of stacked quarterback class, which is something we sort of knew coming into the season. Quinn Ewers was hurt this season, a little bit disappointing. Carson Beck had a down year. Like, there wasn't as much competition to sort of compare him with, but he had, like, an insanely good season, and he played with a confidence we haven't really seen in a college quarterback since, I don't know, maybe Joe Burrow, and just the swag that he had.
Dan, part of this also is like the greatness of greatness, right? True greatness wants to know the limits of its greatness. I remember there was a playoff game where Steve Nash threw like 2 behind-the-back passes with his left hand. One of them was in between someone's legs. It's in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. And I was asking someone else that, like, why would he do that? Why would he even risk that? Because, like, sometimes you just got to know, can I do that? Am I good enough to do that? And so, you know, what Lucy said in terms of 5% more confident than you probably should be, that's the kind of the hallmark of greatness, is that I want to know where my limit is. Like, he could play within his limit, but he said, what if my limit's a little further? And in that is that exploration of something in the beyond.
The reason that I'm bringing all of this up, and it really is the only reason I'm bringing it all up, okay? We obsess with this sport. It's fascinating to us. The most important and valuable position in the sport can be a bit of a mystery. 6 or 7 guys can play it well enough that all of us are like, oh my God. And we miss all the time. The best ever, Tom Brady, 6th-round pick. Nobody saw it. The 2 quarterbacks we're going to be arguing about in these playoffs in the NFL, is he good enough? Can he win the big one? Is he the MVP? Are 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, that nobody saw whatever it is that they needed to see from those 2 people in college that I just saw from Cam Ward, where I'm like, that's for sure a professional at that position. The audacity, the way that he's playing, the arm strength, all of it. How can we keep getting this wrong? Cam Ward was available to everybody, and the moment that I saw him play, I'm like, holy shit, that's as well as that can be done in college football. And then he just kept doing it every week, and it didn't matter who his skill guys were. It really didn't end up mattering. Like, Shedeur Sanders had another top 5 pick as his wide receiver. So I'm watching a quarterback, and when I come by the opinion, this is the best I've ever seen at the University of Miami, that's clearly a pro, that those are all throws that if someone harnesses what all that is, that's gone from 5th-round pick available to anybody to right to the top of the draft and possibly the number 1 overall pick.
I really like Shedeur, though. Like, I not that you come across diminishing Shedeur. I think you do by comparison, because I would really like to see Shedeur behind a good offensive line. I understand he had a couple of great weapons on his offense in terms of talent, more weapons at his disposal than Cam Ward did, but he certainly did not have Cam Ward's line. And I think through the evaluation process, too, there's plenty of things like what you guys said, like 5% too confident. That is absolutely the case with Cam Ward. He makes some weird mistakes.
Wouldn't you rather that 5% not confident enough?
Yeah, but Shedeur does the same thing. Shedeur tries to see where his limits are, too. Shedeur makes some of the best throws that I've seen in the college game. Those 2 guys are really good options. I think Shedeur's going to end up being the number 1 pick. Not even talking about like franchise. It's just because through the eval process, Cam Ward does have tiny hands.
Lucy, though, the thing that I wanted to ask you about this, because whenever it is that football made the evolutions of someone's discovered the back shoulder throw, like what that is, whenever that got invented, I don't know if you guys have a time frame for when you saw the first time the back shoulder throw of guy is covered. Oh, that can't be covered if you do it that way.
That was done on purpose. Like, I remember Brett Favre doing back shoulder throws. Like, sometimes we don't know where they're actually trying to put it, though.
The thing, though, that about college quarterbacking, right, that to me has made it so that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were playing to the eye, right? I've admitted to you a number of different times, I'm not good at quarterback evaluation. I don't know how to see if the end is near for Tom Brady. I didn't think Josh Allen was any good. But when I'm watching Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I'm watching the field, and I don't need to be Mike Tannenbaum or anybody else to know. Those are the only 2 quarterbacks in that sport who are making all of the professional throws, not just the back shoulders and oversimplification, but there is no 3rd quarterback I saw this season that I would draft high because I saw anything that looked like the top end of professional football. Did you?
No, not one. I'm an Iowa football fan. I'm not used to watching good quarterbacks ever. I think something that I, like, as a sports fan, always kind of sit and just, like, think about is that there are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and this is such a tough job and such a difficult position that there are not 32 people in the world who are, like, excellent at something, which is, like, batshit crazy. And then you go look at the college ranks where overall, like, college quarterbacks aren't that good. Like, this is the highest level that a lot of these players are going to, like, play at. It's just sort of one of those things, which is kind of why I like college football, is because I'm like, this is yucky and it's gross and it's funny. But, like, when it comes to quarterback evaluation, I don't think anybody, except for maybe the Packers, are good at that.
And it's really difficult, too, because I fall into the trap. The Canes have reportedly been shopping for a quarterback in the transfer portal, so I'm watching tape on all these guys, and I fall in love with every single one of them because they make insane throws. I've seen it a couple times this year. Nussmeier from LSU. You'll want to tear your hair out half the game, and you'll swear this guy's going to be an NFL bust, and then he'll pull off like 3 throws in a game, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? Jalen Daniels in Kansas, also capable of blowing you away with certain throws.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to be vulnerable for a second. I believed that Cade McNamara was going to be a really good quarterback for Iowa. And that was tough. And that ended up being really wrong. The guy Iowa got now is going to be super good. He's going to be awesome. But it's one of those things where, like, especially when you're in the transfer portal and the market is so different than it is right now, like, you're convinced every single guy is going to be the savior for your program. And, like, overall, college quarterback's just not that good.
We've all got one. Let's all go around the room. I thought Chad Henne was going to be great and the answer for the Dolphins. Roy?
Pennington.
I love Brady Quinn.
I thought KJ Jefferson was going to save my college football program.
David Carr had the best Fresno State season I've ever seen.
Wow.
He took Pat Hill to the mountaintop.
Mike Norvell thought DJ Uyunglele was going to save his program.
You didn't do that vulnerably.
I already did mine. I said Cade McNamara, and
We
that's
needed
even more
more.
embarrassing.
The thing about this to me that is the most interesting, because how can it not be? What Lucy is saying about, so give me all the other things that have the degree of difficulty. If we all look at it and say there are 7, 8 people doing this really well, while it's a position everyone wants, everyone is fighting over, everyone who's playing football starts with the idea of I'd like to be that person, and at the end of the food chain you get to 7 or 8 of them, and someone's going to sign Aaron Rodgers, because once you get into the 15s, everyone's interchangeable and you just don't want interceptions. So give me all the other jobs. When if I say to all of you that basketball and football's economies are something that it's not just the inner cities fighting for money in basketball, it's the globe fighting for money, competitive people fighting for money. In American sports, the most valuable position in every way, everybody wants to be Joe Burrow. Everybody wants to be, in sports, the star of everything. How is it that I can't find for you just about anything else, not astronaut, not anything else, that's going to have the degree of difficulty of, if I make everyone compete for it, I'm still going to only have like 8 or 9 great ones?
Oh, I would argue that NBA head coach is in that bucket. There aren't 30 great NBA head coaches. And despite how many people, you think about how many people are playing quarterback, but it's kind of like there are physical things that you need to be quarterback at some level. Obviously, as a kid, whatever. But once you get to teenager, you got to have certain physical attributes to play quarterback. So it kind of like eliminates the population, a good deal of the population. You talk about head coaching, basketball. I mean, theoretically, it's like, hey, if you're reasonably smart enough and have a good enough feel for basketball, you should be able to do it. And yet there aren't 30 great ones in the world.
Everyone says, though, quarterback is the hardest position to play in sports. I don't think people look at coaching that way, though they probably should, because that's a lot of things that a coach has to be good at, and we can do it for the NFL as well. As I'm watching clock management, I'm like, oh, my God, there aren't 8 good ones of any of this in the entire sport, because they also have to be good at math. It's not all the other shit of how do you get this play in 24 seconds and what's the personnel group and whatever it is that we don't even understand what's happening in those headsets all game.
And the interpersonal relationships, because you could be great at all that stuff and just be shitty at dealing with human beings and lose the plot that way.
Not as in demand as a quarterback or a head coach, but probably more rare is the number one running back with no spell that has been doing it as long and as effective as Derrick Henry. That's even more rare than the franchise quarterback, because he is such an outlier. I thought he was going to be getting old the second he entered the league. I was waiting for all those carries to catch up with him, and they still haven't. He still has blazing straight line speed.
In the modern day, maybe a starting pitcher that can go more than 5 innings. Yeah. Because those types of aces, like real aces that can carry your staff and affect things that way, don't really exist anymore.
Do they not exist, or has the strategy gone away from that?
No, they can't do
It's
it.
both.
They get hurt. No,
It's both.
they don't exist.
They're worried about the arms. So
No, they ruin the arms by doing it. Like, that's a separate conversation, but these guys simply cannot be effective that 3rd or 4th time through the order the way that starting pitchers of the old days used to be able to.
Nobody pitches 200 innings anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
No, it's wild to see the longevity. Like Justin Verlander is a perfect example, a guy who's done that over and over and overcome injuries, and now he's going to be making he's getting paid a lot to go to San Francisco, and he's going to try to make 10 or more starts at age 42 or older. There's 12 guys ever who have done that, so it's a rarity.
But with quarterbacking, it always amazes me how we're afraid to admit what an inexact science the analysis of that position is. And the evidence is from where Tom Brady was drafted to Cam Ward. Anybody remember Todd Marinovich? He was supposed to be the next great thing.
Yeah.
You know, and he didn't even make it at all. And so it's, you know, Milt Plum, if I'm going to throw in an old
Please
thing.
stop. Don't, you don't, we got the point. You don't have to, Milt Plum. Once we get
Marinovich
to
was good
Milt
enough.
Plum, like, we got
That's
it.
not a real name.
Okay.
We got
Milt
it.
Plum was supposed to be
Okay.
the next
All right,
great
you
quarterback.
know what? Lucy, do me a favor. A new segment all of a sudden, because Marinovich was plenty. I don't know
Milt
what.
Plum.
You're gonna
Milt
just-
Plum was born in 1935.
Damn
He's
right.
an 89 years
no,
old.
You know what? Hold on. You know what?
time
No, let's
Get him
stop.
on the phone.
He was invented before the phone. Let me, for just a second, stop everything we're doing. During the break, okay, Amin Al-Hassan, because we cannot help ourselves around some of these sports conversations, from the beyond, he shouted at me that my Cam Ward take, that he's the best quarterback in University of Miami history, and that I can make an argument on behalf of him being the most prolific single season any of us have ever seen at the University of Miami. Amin said to me, Rick Barry would like a word. And I'm like, you know what? I did. I got that wrong. Rick Barry would like a word. But if it happened in the 1950s in sports, did it really happen? Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. If it happened in the 1950s in sports, did it really happen? Because Milt Plum is not something you should have done. And I now want information on Milt Plum to see if he was as good in the 1930s as you remember him.
He was more recent than that. I think he played in the 60s, as did
He was
Rick Barry,
born
by
in the
way.
30s. He played from 57 to 69. Milt
Okay,
Plum.
see,
Nice.
he had a long career, but it was not the height of the NFL. That
Well, what was it
expected of him.
supposed to be? He had a good 12-year career at the position.
Good is a relative word, isn't it?
Had 21 touchdowns one year.
And only 5 interceptions that year.
I'm
pretty
sorry.
great.
I'm sorry I did this to all of you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
It's also Pat Burrell in 1996.
He had more interceptions than touchdowns for
Hello.
his career.
There you
That
go.
doesn't help
So
your
did Joe
argument.
Namath.
So did Joe Namath. That's right.
Pat Burrell hit 484 in 1996. I think it's the best in NCAA history.
Do you guys not
484.
find it amazing what it is that I am talking about? That we
Pat Burrell?
every time, not Pat Burrell, Pat the Bat.
Pat.
I am driving around, and whenever I'm driving around, on some station somewhere, Charlie Weiss or Rich Gannon or somebody's talking about football, no matter what time of day it is, on satellite radio, the economy around football and people who analyze football is more fertile than any other sports economy, I think. Maybe it's the same thing in sports, in soccer overseas. We analyze the holy hell out of this sport because there cannot be enough content about this sport. You cannot put enough football on your television during the day, dwarfing all other sports. How is it possible that we're sitting here talking after all of this analysis about how professional football coaches, professional basketball coaches, and professional quarterbacks can't possibly do the job well because it can't be done well by anybody, and everyone analyzing it doesn't know how it's done well? Explain it to me, because we're covering the holy hell out of all of this, and the teams that are in the playoffs are the ones who have the healthy quarterbacks. We do a lot of things with the salary cap. All the games are even, but what happens at the end? Oh, it's a stunner that Joe Burrow's not in the playoffs because he's one of the good ones. We know it, and all of those make the playoffs.
But we didn't always know it. Look at some of the quarterbacks who had great seasons. They were written off 5 years ago. Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. You know, we write off quarterbacks too quickly. 5 years later, they're at the top of their game. Better statistical seasons than Patrick Mahomes had this year.
What's the point of all the analysis if at the end it's just going to be the best teams are going to be the 8 or 9 of the 10 quarterbacks?
That's not the analysis, though. The analysis is the teams that put together a complete thing. So it's like, how many of these quarterbacks were bad because they had terrible offensive lines? How many of these quarterbacks were bad because they didn't have a good receiving core? How many of the quarterbacks were bad because the coach was not good enough? So, like, we keep trying to boil it down to, oh, it's this one thing. He's the reason why they won. But in the words of Jerry Krause, organizations win championships.
Well, but you say this, okay? Yes, organizations might win championships, but I do wonder, as we spend all these times analyzing these things that we see, getting emotional about it, and separating the winners and the losers from whatever it is their flaws and character traits are. These are soft. They're not tough enough. However it is that winning is measured. The thing that I think gets underestimated by all of the people talking about and covering sports, except the people who are in the fire of it, is how hard it is to have all of the things in place that allow you to be something or someone who consistently wins when younger, cheaper people are always coming for your jobs. Like, where smarter people, the coaches are getting smarter. Where can I make? Football has been crazy. Like, when you've seen what's happened in sports where basketball goes toward the three-point line, or the second baseman in baseball is pulling math out of his back pocket because he's got to be behind second base instead of on second base. What football is doing with the machinery of cost efficiency is making it so that the great quarterback, Lamar Jackson, that can make you great for 7 years, makes it so that your organization can't destroy him as long as he doesn't get hurt. As long as he doesn't get hurt, he can cover every leadership mistake. Not that John Harbaugh is making a lot of leadership mistakes, but when you say that the Ravens organizations win, yeah, but if Lamar Jackson gets hurt, they will immediately stop winning.
Of course, because it's not to say that he isn't an important or pivotal part of it. It's to say that he isn't the only part of it. And the success and failure is not solely hinged on him and his performance. There are other parts that play a role in this. By the way, not to drag the show back to the Milt Plum world, but I just discovered a fascinating stat on Milt Plum. In a college game in 1955 against Syracuse, Milt Plum threw a touchdown pass, intercepted a pass, scored the game-tying touchdown, and then kicks the extra point to win the game.
An underachiever,
Wow.
according to Greg Cody, brought his name up to point out that he never achieved anything compared to what he was supposed to achieve.
It's because of college exploits like that people thought he was going to be the next big superstar in the NFL, which he never became.
I kind of see it now. If there was a prospect, we shit ourselves watching Travis Hunter play. Oh, he plays offense and defense. This dude threw a touchdown pass.
I don't think anybody shit themselves.
Intercepted a pass. You did. I saw it.
I don't think anybody shit themselves.
I smelt it.
Sorry.
Scored the game-tying touchdown, which, again, that doesn't mean he threw the pass. He scored the touchdown himself, then kicked the extra point. How would he not be the absolute apex college football predator?
Mike, who was the quarterback's coach?
Zagacki. He's right.
Thank
How?
you.
It's a rhetorical question, granted, but you're right.
Zagacki?
Mike, who was the quarterback coach for our beloved Plum?
Milt Plum's quarterback coach was Joe Paterno.
Oh, my God. And you say coaching doesn't
So you
matter.
went Todd Marinovich, right? It was obvious what you were saying. It's
Yeah.
an old enough reference. Like,
Right.
it's from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you decided, no, I can do older than that.
Yeah. Well, Milt Plum came to mind. You know.
I know, but you'd already done Marinovich. Marinovich
Right.
it's the gold standard of, look, if you don't know the Marinovich story, his father created a quarterback from the crib. His father realized everything we're talking about. There are only 8 of these in the world. If I make the 9th one, we can all get rich.
He was Richard Williams before Richard Williams. He was Tiger Woods' dad. What was his name before he was
Earl
Tiger
Woods.
Earl Woods.
But he was those things without actually getting. Why did you say that way? Why did you say that from on high, far away from the microphone?
Earl Woods.
Again,
It was
It's
already
a funny
said.
name.
okay.
Earl Woods is a funny name. I'm sorry. Am I right, Rory?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is Earl Woods a funny name? I would urge everyone listening to this, okay, if you want to see documentaries well made, the Tiger Woods documentary without Tiger Woods, didn't need Tiger Woods, on HBO Max, done by Armin Katayan and others, is excellent. And one of the heartbreaking facts in there that is amazing is that Earl Woods, whose name Greg Cody thinks is funny, got his wife so angry with his infidelities that then indeed plagued his son the same way, that Earl Woods, great father to the great prodigy Tiger Woods, is buried somewhere in an unmarked, unnamed grave because of the amount of spite that Tiger Woods' mother has for how her husband behaved in public in a way that embarrassed and disgraced their family.
Or the amount of infidelity.
That's correct.
Like what if that's what it was, right? Just the sheer number.
I mean, that's I said earlier this week when talking about the Jimmy Butler thing, okay, because I always find this interesting, that the number one reason for divorces in this country is money. Everything happening with Tyreek Hill, with Jimmy Butler, money. The number one reason for love turning to hate, because, my God, it was a good run with Jimmy Butler. Like, it really was. That's wildly successful, and it's really great and really fun, and 5 years of magic. Successful relationship. The way to go from love to hate, number one way, get divorced. Find what happens in the separation. What are you doing?
I just received even more late-breaking news about Milt Plum. Okay, so in the NFL draft that year, he got drafted by the Browns in the second round.
I thought you were going to say by the military.
Their first-round pick, Milt Plum goes to second round to the Browns. Their first-round pick was this guy named Jim Brown.
What a draft.
And then in 1960...
How many Zagactos did you get for that one?
Hold on.
Funny.
Hold on. Watch this build. In 1960, he set a record for the passer rating that was not broken until Joe Montana in 1989. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Cody made a good point. Milt Plum is an excellent example.
First gruntled and now this.
Good job, Greg.
This is his flu game, Dan.
You all thought I was plumb crazy. I wasn't.
Why did that room laugh that hard at that? That was not funny.
Major penalty, 5 minutes, ruining comedy.
So when I tell you I have known the character that Greg Cody does out of the side of his mouth for 50 years, that is condescending and sarcastic. Another thing that I have known, if we're going to do old references, honest to God, it's a conversation that I've had with Greg Cody, I'm going to say for 35 years. He has described himself as the Caesar Tovar of comedy. Please find the baseball player Caesar Tovar. He did not take walks. He did not get on base. He did not get hit by pitch. Caesar Tovar took hacks. But he also batted 180. Oh. And I think for his career, I think he was a pretty terrible hitter. But I'm annoyed by these conversations with Greg Cody when he makes the joke that he just did, and I say, really? What are you doing there? And he says, infield single. He claims that those are hits, that what he just did, you're plumb crazy. No, you're not. He's claiming that is an on base, that joke is worthy of success and gets to first base.
He tried to stretch an infield single into a double.
No, he didn't get on base.
Still a hit.
It's fielder's choice.
That goes against the
I'll say infield pop-up. We've been doing this for 35 years. I'll say pop-up. But he always makes what I say are outs hit. So he's got to be in Barry Bonds. He thinks he is Barry Bonds of making jokes. He does. He doesn't think he's Caesar Tovar. He pretends to be Caesar Tovar. How am I the only one frustrated by this?
Caesar Tovar had a year where he finished 7th in MVP voting, but his OPS plus was 97, which meant he was below league average. What were we doing back then to figure out if guys were good?
Are you guys with me on the idea? You're watching an awful lot of college football, Lucy. The fact that we can't analyze that, we don't have even rudimentary, accurate, empirical knowledge about how do we discover, find, and train the person who's going to play that position well. Can it be played well by more than 10 people in the world at any given time?
What's the question?
Yeah. You're just lamenting.
I just can't believe. I can't. No, it's not that
we're never going to fix that.
No. I'm not.
And Cam Ward, the guy that you're touting, was a 0-star in high school.
I'm not lamenting. Look, I assume at this point we're all in agreement we don't do this well. What I'm saying to you is, what is the point of the world being overrun by people analyzing something that clearly No one's analyzing well.
No, but some are. Look, Josh Allen is an example, was a polarizing prospect. There are people that went to the mat saying Josh Allen's going to be good. And since they nailed that because it was a risk-reward situation, their reputation within their sport is made. No matter how many times they're wrong, it'll ultimately catch up to them.
It was only Tannenbaum who was doing that. Of any of the network people, he was the only one doing that, and Justin Herbert.
I think it's so situationally, like, it really depends, especially in like the college game where you look at a player like Kyle McCord who didn't have a bad year at Ohio State by any means, but like just wasn't the right fit there. You could say that, okay, they weren't able to predict what he would be correctly. He goes to Syracuse, has a phenomenal year, receives Heisman votes. He has such a great season. So like, even though there are people getting it wrong, it really does like matter so much the situation where like, you can get it wrong for your situation, but someone else can get it right. We're like, that's just kind of the joy of football is, are you going to have a good quarterback? Is it going to work out? Like, what? Like, it's so insane if we think about it. One of my favorite fan events to go to is the NFL draft because, like, you have to be kind of nuts to go stand outside in Detroit in April at night to just hear a name be called because you genuinely don't know how it's going to play out. It's sort of why we like football, I guess.
All right.
And the punts. I like it because of the punts.
Well, let me do it through this route because you've heard me obsess a little bit today this week about Deshaun Watson and everything that's happened with him because I will tell you, whatever you think of the Texans presently, the greatest threat in the middle of some of what was happening with the Chiefs was Deshaun Watson was up 24-0 against the Chiefs, and that Chiefs team that had Tyreek Hill and needed all of the things that were big play, that Chiefs team would not be able to do against Houston and Deshaun Watson, the erasing of the 24-point lead. That quarterback was at the top of the sport, and then everything ends up short-circuiting. The place I want to go now when it comes to an analysis of that position is we are all watching presently what is the single greatest Detroit Lions team there's ever been because things that happened in the 1950s in sports did not actually happen. The quarterback for that team is Jared Goff. He was let go by the Rams. Everyone thought that was a good decision. Everyone thought that the Rams upgraded. Everyone thought that Jared Goff was a transitional quarterback to whatever it is that the Detroit Lions would do next. We all saw Jared Goff, single greatest coaching achievement of Bill Belichick's lifetime, is he beat Jared Goff with Tom Brady as his quarterback, and he only needed Tom Brady to get 13 points. That was enough to win Tom Brady one of his 7 Super Bowls.
Serious breathing going on for my dad right now.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? Not breathing?
It sounds like in one of those like hip hop beats from like the early 2000s when they were trying to make everything super sensual and you just heard the deep breathing going underneath a Timbaland beat. That's what you sound like right now, Greg.
Okay, that's what I was going for.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Well, with
Thank
the
you for
sick
that.
voice, I figured that was it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Great description there by Jeremy,
It was.
as opposed to a cryption.
Back to Jared Goff.
What's the joke Amin just made? You weren't listening. You're too busy breathing.
No, he was doing the bit. Just keep going.
Jared Goff went from the Rams to the Lions. Nobody thought that was anything, right? Nobody listening to my voice thought that'll make Man Campbell one of the geniuses in sports and they'll go for it on 4th down. And here's some added bonus fun from what their coordinators are doing. They'll have this play where the running back and Jared Goff pretend like they're falling down in the backfield, which no one's doing, so that the linebackers move up and there's someone open again because Jared Goff is great at this when none of us thought that Jared Goff was great at this except when he was at California, where I liked Jared Goff. And then he went number 1, and all I was wrong because at the beginning of his career, Jared Goff was terrible. Didn't seem like he could play the position, and then got with these coordinators, and now, is Jared Goff really the favorite over MVPs Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson because of what you've seen Detroit just did to Minnesota? Are you going to tell me that the eternal laughingstock Detroit Lions are now the favorite and everyone listening to me is saying, yeah, I believe that's the best team in the NFL, even though I saw them lose at home against Buffalo?
If you want to talk about elite level quarterback play with Jared Goff, there's only one quarterback in NFL history that has had over the course of their entire career, same season or not, a season with 4,000 passing yards, a season with 70-plus completion percentage, a season with 110-plus passer rating, a season with 15-plus wins as a starter. The one QB is Jared Goff, and he did it all this year.
That's a pretty good case. I mean, I think Lamar should win it, but that's
Lamar
a pretty good
Jackson
case.
has to win the MVP.
Did you hear what he just said,
Yeah,
though? That's
I did.
never been done before.
I heard
He did
every
it all in one season.
I heard every second, and you can make stats like that for Jamar. I mean,
Lamar.
the dual.
Lamar,
the-
you want?
I mean, Jamar Chase
Jamar
also had a
Chase
really
also-
good season.
if he wins
really-
another MVP, does he have more MVPs and playoff wins?
it could be.
The medication is
Yeah, you're
kicking in.
medicated.
The medication, the breathing. Lamar, you were saying.
Okay, Lamar Jackson. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm not as smart as
You don't like him
As
either?
Jason.
Yeah.
what?
It's my brother's name.
Okay,
You don't like him either, is what I said.
Lamar Jackson has, I think, like 47 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. Not to mention almost 1,000 yards rushing. Nobody does that. He has to win the MVP award. I don't care.
I think your touchdown total is a little bit high, is it not?
41-4.
41-4.
You said 47.
Okay, the ratio. I had the ratio right on the mark. 47-5 statistically is about the same as
Okay,
41.
you know what? You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
You're absolutely
You
right.
win.
And I cannot dispute the ratio. We're the assholes for correcting.
Yeah.
You. We
Yeah.
knew what you meant, and you got the ratio right.
Zagacki. L-Jack has to win the MVP award this year, in my opinion. Now,
Okay.
granted, he was a Lobo, so I'm a little prejudiced in
That's
his
very
behalf.
important.
But
Okay.
So is Jamar. That's probably where you got
Again,
That too,
for
yeah.
some reason, I'm sorry.
MVL,
I
Jamar.
do feel. I forgive me. I'm gonna need to ask the audience to forgive me and to have this be a sincere apology.
Dan, not to interrupt you.
You're interrupting me.
I know, but this is important because I don't think you heard the last thing he said. Chris says Jamar Chase is also on the Lobos. That's probably why you got confused. And he says, that's right, Jamar Chase, MVL. So,
Yeah.
by your own admission, Lamar Jackson isn't even the MVP of your fantasy team. You want to make
So happy you stopped. everything.
MVP in the NFL?
All right. that begs an explanation. Okay. Lamar, I had 2 fantasy teams, both called Lobos. Lamar started on one team, Jamar Chase on the other. Okay, so technically, again, I was right. But Jamar Chase won the MVL award in a controversial decision over Saquon Barkley. Okay?
You saved it
that's
by
how-
you say it that way, and you saved the whole thing.
You
Saquon
rocked him.
Barkley.
You got him like Orlovsky got Shannon Sharp.
Again, though. I'm
Sorry.
Jared Goff. Do any people listening to this understand the insanity of the fact that the Detroit Lions are favored to win the Super Bowl as an eternal laughingstock because they have this quarterback doing things at the position that none of us would regard as the best quarterback until seeing what we're presently seeing at this position? We thought he was a creation of whatever it is McVay was doing. We think he's a creation now. All of us would say that he's paid about where he should be, being with Trevor Lawrence and Tua. But he's better than everybody by virtue of system and draft status and everything the Lions are doing. And I find it baffling that we analyze this sport this way with this much information and that we can't see that one coming. That no one sees it coming when you didn't see coming that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen were good enough to play the position either.
That's true. You remember?
This is a new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit. This is behind
the bit. We take you back to a better time in the show's history, a time, at least for me, where I was happiest because we were at ESPN.
All right, go enjoy the party.
Take care.
I'm
Good
sorry I
talking to
couldn't get you in trouble. I was trying so hard, Mickey.
Best from Tim, huh?
Stay white. Come on, I meant that in the most loving way possible.
Yeah, the backstory on that is funny because Mickey Arison is the owner of the Miami Heat. At the Heat Championship rally that had a whole lot of people at it, the slogan for that year was white hot, and they won the championship. And he was nervous speaking in front of people because he's not really a public person that way. And instead of saying to everybody, stay white hot, he said to a whole lot of white people in a very divided Miami, stay white, in sort of echoing white supremacist rally kind of way, which is not really what you're going for. And
I'm certain he wasn't going for that.
Stay white is not, Miami's very ethnic, Miami's very black and brown and also white. But to tell a bunch of people to stay white and to have it sound kind of Aryan was not the Miami Heat's best moment.
He just slipped up. Instead of saying stay white hot, he told his fans to stay white. And our show seized on that. And we would use that as a sounder. It would be in something called the end of show montage. It was just a sound whenever we would suey people. Say white was a part of it. So that was his first interview with us since Dan had made a mockery of that one public speaking mishap. And that's why you hear someone in the background go, oh, and reacting to it. But Dan, credit to him, told Mickey to his face to stay white.
Mickey Arison is a friend of yours, and really where it gets tricky, and I think probably why he might be a little bit upset, is he realized he was embarrassed enough already. He had made the mistake. He meant to say, stay white hot. He said, stay white. He doesn't need to hear it from his friend.
We played
on the radio.
it a lot. We played it a lot. We could have played it less.
Right.
We could be talking about it less now. I don't know that he's had a worse, a more embarrassing public moment. So to have me bringing it up all the time, less than pleasant for him.
Actually, I have a funny story about that. So Mickey, who's the owner of Carnival Corporation, was showing off one of his boats, one of his new boats. And like the deck and the chairs were all white, and I referenced it to everybody quote tweeting on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It was in quotes, I think. Stay white. Apparently Mickey forgot that he said that and didn't get the joke. I guess he thought it was a kind of a racial comment. And he texted Dan like, well, what the is your producer doing here? Like, what's going on? Stay white. And Dan went up to me and said, hey, Mickey is asking about what you're saying here. Like, what's going on? I was like, you don't remember what he said at the parade? He said, stay white. And I brought it up as a reference, and Dan laughed about it, so he had to explain that to him, which was pretty funny, I bet.
But yes, I remember Mickey Arison not being happy about that. I don't remember the
But that's something that
particular
stays
details.
with you. Like, you don't forget that. Like,
Yeah.
Roy sending that and him saying, I forgot about it. And then him call,
But he called you? Yes.
He did?
Yeah. He doesn't like that we had that much fun with that. Why would he like that? No.
The amount of calls Dan has taken over the years.
Yes.
Because one of us.
Yes.
I'm so proud of Roy.
A lot of those. I've had a lot of those.
For me, mostly, though.
Mostly you, yes.
Was there any reaction to it? Any backlash?
Oh, we laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. It was hilarious. As far as it was just us. I don't know about anybody else, but it was just us. Mickey Arison yelled that out as he was leaving the podium.
Greg Cody just said during the break that if Jared Goff wins MVP, he will indeed shave his eyebrows. He just made that pledge. Amin was made very happy by that pledge. We need to stop playing the stay white thing. We need to stop doing that because it's gonna make, I promised Mickey Arison we wouldn't do very much of that anymore.
Stay white.
It's the echo, man.
The echo takes it to other levels.
Stay white. Well, it's streets with thousands of black people on them. It's a parade. He's speaking at a parade, and it's Miami. It's the center of Miami. It's right across the street, and he's a nervous public speaker. Stay white. I've made a mistake. I'm doing a lot of apologizing today. There are some secrets here to the doing of the show, and I hope Mike Ryan starts revealing some of those in the second half of our oral history. And, there are little delights I notice all the time. I will follow Billy's face anywhere. It made the show difficult to do yesterday because he was a dinosaur. And during the break, I'll follow Mike's face on something that I see in enthusiasm, but I don't know entirely what it is. And clearly, I aired last segment talking too much football quarterback because I lost Mike Ryan last 10 minutes of that segment because I can see on his face there was something involving Pat Burrell that had delighted him, and I needed to follow that wherever it is that it went, and I failed to follow that because I saw that you and Jeremy, I lost him entirely because he was thinking 2001 University of Miami baseball.
1996 Pat Burrell season. One of the greatest freshman seasons in the history of college baseball, 484 batting average. Pat Burrell was incredible, and I think you owe him an apology for not even considering him here when you're talking about Cam Ward having the greatest individual season in UM athletics history.
Now, Mike, you said one of the greatest freshman seasons ever, and then you said he batted 484. Is there another freshman season you could think of anywhere that competes with that?
Well, I wanted to hedge my bet specifically in that sport because, I don't know college baseball. If you go to college baseball, you have to play like two seasons,
Mark Kotze
right?
will bat 500 in a college baseball season. Like the very best of college baseball players will put up some ridiculous batting average.
There's one player, and I can go back and find it, who hit over 550 in a single season, and that is the single season leader. But as a freshman, to that point, no one had ever, as a freshman, hit for a 480 batting average or higher. So Pat Burrell had set the single-season freshman record.
So I was absolutely hooked on that. You mentioned the next oral history episode, what we do with that. We're actually hitting pause on the narrative storytelling of the oral history this week because we wanted to have a special halftime episode where we focus on all the wonderful co-hosts that have joined our show, all the talents that have sat in the seat that Greg is sitting in right now. It's an episode that shines a spotlight on Amin and Greg and others.
Wow.
One of them is Pablo Torre, and he has a new podcast. It's not so new anymore. Pablo Torre Finds Out. It is getting a lot of critical acclaim. He does real inspired journalism there, and as our journalistic conscience here at Meadowlark Media, can you tell me what you make of everything happening with Mark Zuckerberg and whatever it is Zuckerberg is doing these days as Elon Musk tries to buy America and 4 people are going to have the finances to be able to run the entire world here in about 6 minutes?
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story that's founded superficially in Mark Zuckerberg. And we did an episode about this early on in 2023, an episode about Mark Zuckerberg falling in love with mixed martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You've sort of seen I've seen since college, his visual appearance, his style evolve. He was one of the most awkward people on the planet. If you ever seen that video about him talking about Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, you know that. And he's since sort of restyled himself into this MMA guy. And what he's doing now with Dana White is, look, it's very transparent. Just on a political level, Dana White is a surrogate for Donald Trump. Facebook, like Amazon, like every multinational corporation in America, is figuring out how do we now deal with the guy, the president, who wants us to, show our fealty to him. And so Dana White being on the board of Meta is shocking only if you don't follow that story. But I think there's a bigger story about content moderation here. So, wait, look, this is going to be me talking for a while, guys. You want to make fun of me now? Should I wait? Should I just keep going?
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you actually stopped yourself here because Mike had stopped listening. He's still
actually
thinking
going down
about
there to
Pat
talk about
Burrell.
the IMG Academy head coaching hire that Bill Belichick just made.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, he's not interested in what it is that you're talking about as it relates to Dana White and collapsing systems of all kinds. But
Yes.
you want to continue?
Yeah, like the whole idea of free speech, right? That's the whole platform. And so content moderation, when it was not Donald Trump as the president, when the culture was in the other part of the pendulum swing, content moderation, I used to say this, was the reason why all of these tech CEOs, the richest people in the world, were stressed out about their jobs. Because they had to do the hard act of basically being a Supreme Court justice and trying to figure out what speech is allowed, what is dangerous, what is free, what's okay, what's not, what's harassment, what's abuse. It's an impossible question that literally the Supreme Court has really hard, really hard times trying to solve.
All right.
And what?
No, I want to stop you for just a second, just 1 second, okay? I know there are a lot of global things to be worried about, and one of them, I don't know whether it goes in your top 10 or not, is the fact that the richest people in the world are getting even richer as we create more desperation between the haves and the have-nots. And I read the other day that Jeff Bezos had a $600 million wedding in Aspen, and I was wondering if any...
Allegedly.
He came out and really, in a way that he hasn't publicly...
It was fake?
Slammed the hell out of that story.
Okay, so there are no details being reported about a $600 million wedding, because when I saw that, these guys are already funding things that cost more than that to just do space competitions.
I love the idea that he says, whoever said I had a $600 million wedding is outright lying. It's preposterous. We're just dating.
I mean, yeah, he didn't volunteer the number, but look, there's a lot of online conjecture about Jeff Bezos, and he's never really been that compelled to come out as strongly as he did. So I'm guessing something was off there. When the reported detail was $600 million, he came out on social media and blasted it.
But the through line here is that they are coming out strongly, and I mean that literally. Like, Jeff Bezos is jacked now. Mark Zuckerberg works out. Like, these guys have become the other side of the cultural aisle when it comes from Nerdville now to, like, we are jocks. And what I was going to say about the content moderation thing is simply that they don't have to worry about that question anymore, because now content moderation is what they always wanted it to be, which was just satiating the people who could get them in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Content moderation was always about how do we protect our own asses. And now the people holding them to account are not some larger democracy with sensitivity towards minority groups. It's just the one guy. And so on the board of Meta is Dana White. We know his general approach to quote-unquote free speech. And we know that he's now dissolving, Mark Zuckerberg is, the board that he had tried to install that would be a pseudo-Supreme Court in terms of figuring out what's okay and what's not. So everybody can stop pretending that they cared about content moderation, and now it's just straight appeasement, which is, again, predictable, but also very funny visually.
Pablo, one of the most shocking things I think about that video was the part where he says, in part, this decision is because, well, we saw the election, like he outright says it, like, the other people are smoking, like they don't care about this stuff. They, America wants this. And it's one thing to say, hey, I don't want the burden of censorship. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going from, removing content to reducing mistakes in removing content. Like all those things, I think you can make a rational argument for and see, like, yeah, that makes sense. But when he blatantly says, yeah, the election results also let us know that, like, the times are changing, that was the part I was shocked that he would admit out loud.
Yeah, and by the way, like I don't have a good solution, right? Content moderation is in fact really hard. Look at Elon's approach to X. His approach has been a winning one, a quote-unquote popular one, to go to the rhetoric that Amin was just citing there. I don't have a good solution. It's literally why I keep on repeating this. The Supreme Court has to rule over these free speech issues. There is no easy standard for what is fire in a crowded theater versus abuse of minorities. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly hard, and it's a case-by-case basis, and it's not best left to tech companies. But to what Amin is saying, like, they're basically saying, yeah, look, Trump won, and people don't care anymore about this. And I think that is, I guess, statistically narrowly true. He won a majority that is more narrow than the rhetoric suggests. But also, I think it's broadly true because everyone else is just exhausted. It's exhausted. Everybody here, I think, is tired of the argument about can this person say this or not. Even people who care about the trampled upon smaller groups in this country that are being, not just punched down upon, but like roundhouse kicked off of platforms. All of us are like, I guess that's just what it is. And I don't blame you.
the other thing, Pablo, is there's also degrees to all of this, right? There's degrees. When you say people shouldn't be allowed to say this, one of the things that's been happening over the last couple of days is as these fires are raging in California, in the past, Twitter had been like a great resource for people in these crisis moments of where to get help, where to avoid, all these kind of informational things. And instead, Twitter has been flooded because the algorithm is flooding the timelines with shit that's not really relevant to people trying to get information in the time of a crisis. And that's kind of the thing is like, it's one of these things like, hey, you should say unhoused instead of homeless versus actual actionable things that people need out of these devices.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's just, hey, that's a sex worker, not a prostitute.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, let's, whatever. We're all exhausted by that. But when the people in charge aren't good at surfacing important, necessary, helpful speech, that's where you're like, it maybe is a problem that all of us, that everybody everywhere is working for a tech company whose incentives are not actually in the direction of the broader benefit of human beings, but rather the self-interest of the people who run these platforms. That would be an issue to me.
The symbolism is a bit amazing that we would be having any kind of conversation about America literally being on fire, and you go to the internet for help in an emergency, and it's people arguing about whether we've got cancel culture. Like, I mean, it's asinine art when you're looking. When I'm calling friends in California, very worried about them, and they're like, it's so much worse than even the video could possibly show you, because you've got hurricane winds blowing fire all over parts of California that weren't expecting fire of any kind, and they can't put anything out. And we sit here and make it about culture wars or politics. Let me move off of this into a sports thing that I want to get Mike and Lucy to. This happened during the break, and I'm just curious because we're adding more and more games. We want more and more football. As fire burns and America needs the distraction of football more, and football becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and all the rules change, and college coaches don't even want to be in charge because, really, I'm going to fight everybody over money during desperate times? Okay, that seems hard. Leonard Hamilton at FSU got sued by 6 players because they say, hey, we're owed $1.5 million in NIL, and you haven't given it to us, and where is it? And here's a boycott. We're not coming to practice. I imagine stuff like this is happening all over the place. If people are trying to get control of things and the rules keep changing. When you guys saw Leonard Hamilton coach Michael Jordan, did a great job at the University of Miami, when no one did a great job at the University of Miami, has been kind of a titan at basketball at FSU. They don't have any preordained right to always be good, and they're often good because of Leonard Hamilton. He's been there for a long time. For an old man to get hit with this particular problem of guys aren't coming to practice, where's my $1.5 million? Isn't that happening everywhere right now?
No, you'd hear about it. You heard about this. We have social media, which if you're feeling helpless and people aren't paying attention to you, you know that you could put a tweet out there, and websites, including in the college football space, would gobble that up. So no, I don't think it's happening everywhere. I've heard of like a handful of times. We had Jaden Rashada sue Florida and even Billy Napier directly. Now, Jaden Rashada, who's had a checkered history, has entered the portal once again. But no, I don't think it's that big of an issue because it's not really something that we're not all searching for. That is great clickbait.
Also, $1.5 million sounds like a pretty small number for a major college program to cover, right?
For college basketball, it seems like a hefty number.
That's a funny thing for Greg Cody to say.
Seems like a real hefty number.
I mean,
you got it.
With everything happening now, if you're at a major school like Michigan or Texas, $1.5 million is nothing.
College basketball, men's college basketball, that is a really hefty number.
And especially, you got to think about it. We're not talking about Duke basketball here. Florida State.
Multiple guys, too. Like, multiple guys.
Six guys. 6 players.
So it's $250 apiece. $250 apiece.
It's half your team. It's going to be half your starters, right?
I'm
sorry, half your roster.
Wait, the total is one?
Or
total one.
Okay.
Oh, we got a new fine. We got a new fine on the Venmo fine bucket. Is that your phone?
No.
Oh,
yes, it is.
It is literally
you know what happened? I blame the show. Because here's what happened. My phone was off to begin the show.
Yeah.
But then when I was sent into the penalty box, I almost said the
Well,
game room.
But you understand you actually have to pay this now because, like, it's one thing people say that they don't have cash, but now that we have the Venmo fine bucket.
How much do I owe?
Look, this is the new fine system. Venmo bucket fine chart. $1 for a mistake, $2 for coughing or phlegming, $3 for pestering of any kind, $5 for tone, $7 for not listening. I didn't give you the $7 fine before when you weren't listening, but $10 for a phone interruption, according to the now sponsored Venmo bucket. These fines will be paid. If you do not pay it, it will be taken out of your paycheck. They will now be...
Now, Dan,
you're going to. This is sponsored now. We can't mess with the money.
And
We
who
can't
gets the money?
We can't mess with the sponsors. It goes into the fine bucket, and then if it gets picked at the grid of death anytime next year, a lucky employee gets all of the fine money.
Now, Dan, I have a clarifying question because as you see here on the sheet, the fine print says fines are doubled on Tuesdays because of Greg Cody Tuesdays, but Greg didn't come in on Tuesday. This Thursday acts as a proxy for the Tuesday.
Yes.
I would argue that the fine should still be doubled.
No, I would not. It invalidates the entire fine, quite frankly.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Just give $10 to the Venmo fine.
Venmo.
Do you know?
Forward $10 to the fine bucket. Thank you. All right, done.
That's not how that works.
Is that a note to yourself?
That's not how.
That's not how it
How
works.
does it work?
That's not even how you fake pretending like you know how it works.
Hey, Venmo, cover me
By
here.
the way,
Now you got
Plus
it.
I'm ill.
Venmo, cover me.
The fine print of that says if someone is under the weather,
You're just making things up. We saw the fine print.
Okay. All right.
It's $10.
To create a bit of a through line here, I think so. Greg is on one end of the how old do you think this guy is spectrum. I do think Leonard Hamilton is shockingly old.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he's
is.
he's about Greg's age.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what?
He's 76. It's crazy.
He's older than Greg Cody
Yeah,
by 6
imagine that.
years. Yes.
Wow.
That is.
Good for him.
Imagine that, my dad said.
Good for you, Leo.
Black don't crack.
I didn't know he was that old, quite frankly. He looks good. He does.
He looks incredible.
Yeah.
Mark Jones is also on this list, by the way. ESPN announcer Mark Jones. Do you guys know how old Mark Jones is? Have you done this already?
No. How old?
How old do you think Mark Jones is?
49.
I was going to say.
Mark Jones is 63 years old.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
You're lying.
That is crazy.
He
But
looks 49.
also, Mark Jones is a little too suspiciously in good shape.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard
Oh.
Show. Is Mark Jones a little too suspiciously in shape? Or are you shocked that Mark Jones is 63 years old? Are you shocked that Leonard Hamilton is 76 years old? And put all three of them together. Which of these shocks you the most? Because I want to put that in front of you guys. You guys seem to be
Mark
surprised by
Jones.
Mark Jones.
That
But
is
Leonard
wild.
Hamilton being 76 floored me. That's $2 more for Greg Cody.
No, because I pressed the red button.
He did.
Yeah,
He
that's
did.
the clock
Thank you.
button. Yeah.
That's true.
Well, it doesn't
You
say.
owe money for the fine bucket for
Pestering.
misrepresenting me.
It just says $2 for coughing. It doesn't say anything about a microphone or anything. It just says.
Well, look,
coughing
can we
phlegm,
actually pay
$2.
this thing, though? Because we have a corporate sponsor now. We actually have to go
so
through
thank
with
you.
these
So
things.
listen, okay, because I'm tired of this and I'm fed up of
Venmo's
not having
fun.
any control over my company. Look, our sponsors make us the thing that gets to exist when nothing like this exists, okay? You're disrespecting. Venmo pays for that by not doing this correctly and by ignoring this. We've had to put this system in place so that you respect the sponsor. And I'm not joking when I say if you do not pay these fines, they will be taken out of your paycheck.
I am going to pay
Okay,
it.
but what
But
I
also-
want to address with all of you, stand down, is that Greg Cody just decided, because I know his son is annoyed by this as a life thing. The furthest that Greg Cody has come in technology is doing this to his phone. Venmo, do this for me.
Yes. That's the way it should work.
That is, Chris, you have seen that your father treats his phone as a tape recorder and an assistant that sends messages for him because his fat fingers are too lazy to type. Where's your back in my day?
It's not Tuesday. That's a Tuesday.
So you have
joint.
one?
Nah, he's right.
Thank you.
It's not Tuesday.
You know what else? You know what else? We got Glue 6. We're making you appear eyebrowless.
There we go.
All right?
Okay.
That's going to happen.
We have Mina coming up in the next hour. During that interview, you will see in the bottom right my dad losing his eyebrows.
Lucy, are you going to do this for us? Are you going to administer this?
Yes, I've been watching TikTok tutorials on how to get rid of an eyebrow. We are missing some of the things we need. CVS was lacking in the red color corrector. So it may not be perfect, but I'm going to do my very best. I've watched 4 TikTok videos, so I'm basically an expert on the matter.
Thank you. So can I now get your opinion when Mike is saying that this isn't a normal thing with Leonard Hamilton? What kind of chaos is unseen, no matter what social media we're talking about, in a no-rules type of governance where these coaches are getting a little bit overwhelmed by, once the players have total freedom and everyone can grab at money, this stuff is going to get contaminated and feel from afar like it can be corrupt.
Some of this that I think people don't realize is a lot of these schools actually export out their NIL operations. And there are legit companies who run like Penn State's NIL, just for an example. So when things like this happen, those NIL organizations that are literally businesses in charge of running that school's operation, they have lawyers and legal teams in place so that schools are protected. I don't believe that every school has sort of like an outsourced NIL, but like it offers a little bit more protection where I think you haven't really seen this that much. Like Rashada's a good case. This is a good example. But for the most part, like schools have these contracts in place where it's like, okay, well, if you're here, this is how you're going to get money. And if you have to do appearances in this county to prevent people from transferring and whatnot. But like there are legal protections in this. I don't know what Florida State's NIL operation is, but most schools protect themselves.
Well, you mentioned Florida State, and I think it's important context to know that we find out a lot in the public space about Florida State's historically NIL program because it's not very buttoned up. Look, people argue about money in Fortune 500 companies. So a lot of these issues you never hear about. I thought this deal was this way. Like all that stuff stays in-house, and it's the key to having a good collective is making sure no one knows about this stuff and being able to find solutions to these disagreements when they do pop up, because you're talking in some cases about hundreds and hundreds of athletes that are receiving NIL from one collective. If you know about it, if you get essentially held hostage the way that FSU's collective was over the Orange Bowl, it shows you bad leadership within that collective as well.
Pablo?
If I can distill this down a little simpler, I think there's a solution here. They should just use Venmo. Because on Venmo, there's an awesome feature that I think Greg would enjoy. When you have to label what you're paying someone for, whether you be a college coach who owes back pay to a new generation of athletes, or a 70-year-old man, apparently, who is delinquent in all sorts of ways, you pick an emoji, Greg, and that emoji can signal with some degree of privacy and resentment why you're paying this. So I encourage you to select the emoji for your fines in the new Venmo regime. And
what is the final tally on Greg Cody's fining? The $10 phone interruption, that are we letting him slide on the $7 not listening? Because now the fine bucket is going to be a richer thing, right? Somebody stole. I'm still offended by that. I don't know how we haven't had an investigation. An employee at this company stole hundreds of dollars that were in the fine bucket. Yes, there were hundreds of dollars.
Wait, that was never solved?
Never solved. And I think Bob, the engineer, got a bad rap. It was a difficult time at the Clevelander. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people were accusing him. I would never.
It wasn't Bob.
It was. I would never.
It wasn't Bob.
Look, I'm pretty sure Stugotz did it. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, statistically speaking, yeah, that sounds right.
Pablo, what is coming up on Pablo Torre Finds Out? I will tell the people, again, it's unusual to win this many awards. There aren't actually a lot of non-athletes coming into the sports podcast space, which is very popular, and having a hit thing, and he has a hit thing. And he's got this, he's got the blue check mark army. They run with him.
Yeah, that's right.
The MSNBCers.
The elites.
The liberal elites. It's a country club podcast.
The blue check marks are now the other side, by the way.
That's right. Well, forgive me. My information's dated. My bad. Thank you.
The ivory tower, no check mark anymore. Tuesday's episode, which I encourage you to enjoy. If you guys know the worst sports commercial in the history of sports television, the sportsmanship commercial.
Oh, no, I thought it was What a Pro Wants.
I took the ball, coach.
Yeah, exactly, This kid, Alex, went into hiding because he was so dunked upon by the entire internet that he has been hidden. We have found him. We brought him into a studio. It took literal years to acquire his trust. That was Tuesday's episode. It takes us from the Supreme Court, which again I keep on saying for real reasons, to the Dalai Lama, to Dame Lillard. All of that happened. Today we have an episode about explaining like the whole debate and the science underneath the trans athletes thing for people who maybe actually have skepticism about the ivory tower. It's for you. Then tomorrow, my arch nemesis, Dan, Nick Wright, noted terrible person, is joined by his co-host Kevin Wildes, and they join me on tomorrow's show to talk about the art of giving takes. So screw him, but he's also on the show tomorrow.
I can tell Pablo spent a lot of time in Miami and around us because he said, Dale, Llama.
Dun, 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 dun.
By the way, Pitbull. Pitbull, how old do you think Pitbull is?
Oh, he's got to be 50 something.
Now anything is possible. I'm going to say 67.
Armando is, I'm going to say 57.
What?
No way, this
number.
Just grading off of the Mark Jones curve.
We're not playing the game.
I'm saying he's 51.
28.
I'm going to say he's in his 40s. Come on.
17.
Pitbull's 43, guys.
Shit, he's
so right in the middle.
He's younger than I am?
Young man.
He's 20
Pitbull's
years
young-
younger
that-
than Mark Jones.
Pitbull is younger than Amin and Mark Jones.
And me.
Shocking.
Pablo, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time. Pablo Torre Finds Out is the name of the podcast. I encourage you to listen to it because it is very different. There are not a lot of people, or there's not anybody doing exactly what he is doing. What you still want to? I can't.
I just continue. I continue to distrust all of you, but I appreciate the time.
Okay. Thank you. I thought I already said goodbye to you.
You can learn about our show's history with Pablo Torre on this week's upcoming episode of The Oral History.
Yes, I'm sure he'll be listening, and can't wait to just hear either his voice or something about him. Pablo Torre, basically what he is doing with Pablo Torre Finds Out is just going to the depths of his narcissism, and then
Okay, we've gotten further from the compliment phase, and I think we can just end it. Probably just end it there. Yeah.
I'm really excited about this episode with Kevin Wildes, who used to be my boss when I worked on The Jump, and Nick Wright.
I'm happy that you mentioned that because Kevin Wildes is like an iconic producer.
Yeah, I don't know how many people know that.
And like all producers, fell in love with the camera and microphone.
And a microphone, absolutely. They all come over this side, don't they? Except for Matthew Kugler. But I also stand with Pablo in that Nick Wright is a horrible person.
You're sitting.
And so,
Thank you.
well,
you're also sitting. Yeah.
I stand hunched over with Pablo, and that Nick Wright is a well, there's another fine.
$2.
No,
He pushed the button.
He pushed the button.
It just says
push the button.
coughing.
No.
It just
Yeah,
says
but he pushed the
coughing.
button.
It
Come
doesn't
on.
say the
We
button.
gotta do a little something for him. He's battling here.
Thank you, Mike.
He did the right thing. Now, if he just coughed right into the microphone, then that's a fine. But
I'm just saying, I'm trying to go by what the sponsor wants.
we're
It says
actually trying to
coughing.
get some payoffs here. So let's give him a win and let's get our $10.
So that's the barter? Like if you just
If he's
send him
reaching for the
$10.
cough button,
Why is there a cough button there? If it's not to be depressed.
No,
you're
look,
supposed to suppress a cough a little
Or
bit
press.
so it's not picked up by the other ones.
it's supposed to be pressed, not
he was in the middle of making his point, then we all worry for you. It's a
you
tricky.
should worry for me.
What?
Why did you say that like that?
I don't understand why he keeps doing broadcaster voice.
You're not narrating this. You're here.
His only move today.
He talks as if he's like talking over the room.
His only move today is he's sick. He's playing hurt. And so the only joke he's got is the last thing I'll say is going to be said in a ridiculous voice. And so before everyone ends this segment and before Greg Cody ruins the rest of what we have going, the thing I wanted to ask all of you, because I know some of you are gambling, you guys are doing prop bet stuff. Do you think that we could come up with a new segment that, because of the people around here who are gambling, every week somebody in our group is going to have the worst bad beat? I bring this up for a reason, okay? Because the over-under on the number for David Montgomery in Detroit rushing yards this season was 775 and a half yards. And he got to 775. And then his knee blew up.
No way.
And so he got there easily. Like it would have been an easy winning bet because the Lions were going to be overwhelming at running the ball and are even more overwhelming than you thought they'd be. but he got within a half yard, and then his knee blew out. All he needed is one more play for a half yard, and he would have gotten it. Do you think that we'd have enough bad beats around here? I know Mike is throwing down so many prop bets as it can't be healthy, the amount of prop betting that Mike Ryan is doing, because
I think I do a healthy amount.
He's finding a lot of advantages. Look, Billy's pretty good at the prop bets too. There is some money to be found around prop bets if you know a little bit about systems and matchups and stuff. There's money to be made. Do you have a bad beat every weekend?
Yeah. Yeah. A volume shooter on the props. I'd go for the bigger paydays. And then I have one that makes me like about even on the weekend. I'm like, man, how much fun was had? That was so much fun.
I have lost either 4 or 5 times this season. I have Patrick Mahomes rushing yards. I get the over. I have the over, and then he kneels down 3 times at the end of the game, and I lose my over.
I came a catch short on Devontae Adams because I was just like, last game of the regular season, potentially Aaron Rodgers' last game ever. He's just going to go out feeding Devontae Adams. So I took every over and I juiced up the receptions, and I got it up to 6.5, and I hit literally 7 of 8 legs, and I just needed one catch. But that doesn't even land on me. I need that to feel alive.
Lucy, you felt alive on the field at the University of Texas. I saw you. You were radiant. You were glowing.
Yeah, Ricky Williams and I are best friends now. Well, not exactly. I said, oh, Ricky, isn't it so great that we've become good friends? And he didn't respond. But I think he meant yes.
How high did you get with him?
I did not. I'm a professional media member that wasn't credentialed. So Dan overwent the system and then brought Ricky Williams, and it was really cool, but we'll never be allowed back at Texas.
Yeah, that one kind of backfired on me.
But I had so much fun.
Did we have Ricky like sneak Lucy in?
Yeah.
It wasn't very sneaky, though. Someone for security came up and was like, hey, you don't have a pass. Are you with Ricky Williams? And I said, yep. They go, okay, that's fine.
I mean, he did sort of say, have I not done enough for these people? The field's like named after him.